You are listening to Level Up Gaming Podcast, episode 106, Players as GMs. In today's episode, we talk about giving player GM rights in the game. We discuss how to have your players incorporate dynamic editing in games and alter game story. We also discuss where are the boundaries that should be placed upon these game mechanics. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person once again, Jared. How you doing today, Jared?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm doing great.
Still wondering why we haven't done our review of Ghostbusters and Batman.
We're going to have to do some extra episodes. That'll be the extra episodes that drop. It'll be like reviews of random things. It'll be like today we're reviewing Batman, or like today we're reviewing this video game, or today.
Maybe. All right. So what's our topic?
Today's topic is one that you came up with, actually, which is players as GMs. And when we say players as GMs, not just players sitting in the GM seat, but inviting your players to do more of like dynamic action and like actually narration within story.
Right. And this is something we've mildly discussed in the past. I believe you played in a game that had dramatic editing, correct?
Yes. So I played it in a one-shot game with the hybrid game system. I think I'm blanking on his name right now, but he developed this system called the hybrid game system. Please check it out with the ETA gaming engine. And the key to the ETA gaming engine is that you effectively have these points. They're sort of like fate points, and you could do various things with them within the game. So, like, you could take a regular successful roll and turn it into a critical roll, or you could use it to basically take the system is based upon directors and like you're like heroes like in a movie. Mm-hmm. So like you could take control of the direction from the director by spending one of these points, and for a while you can effectively narrate what's happening as long as it stays within genre limits. Okay, so and it doesn't like totally break immersion. So right. You can't be like and now I poof into existence this M60 and go Rambo on their ass. Like, no, it doesn't work. But if you said, you know, we're here, we're being chased down. The example that he actually has in his documents is you're being chased by this horde of zombies, and somebody blows an ETA point, and it's like because you're looking at like the camera, so you don't have the full pan view of what everybody has with like the peripherals. And somebody goes, "I look to the right," and we get in that helicopter that's over there because there was a helicopter there. We never said there wasn't a helicopter there, but there is now a helicopter because it thematically fits here. Okay, and then other people can then chain ETA points on to then also continue the narration. So as a group, you're sort of narrating your way into success.
Yep.
So it's a very cool thing. And I adopted that system into my last game by giving you guys the points. The problem is I was terribly worried that you two being moody hoarders who don't like to spend any of your powers or anything like that. You know,
true.
And I get that's just caution of our table. You know, I was like, I'm going to give this to you, and you're going to wax my villain in like one hit. I was very worried.
I did blow your villain's foot off. One of your villains, because there was two in that game.
You did blow my villain's foot off. That was just a good.
That was just a solid roll with a shot. He moved. I told him not to move.
That was just a good shot. You actually both ended up using the dramatic edits to save different people.
Yes, we did. Because, God damn it, we're heroes. We're heroes, damn it. In the end, our characters are heroes.
For a while, I thought that you forgot you had had it, but...
I did. I actually legit did. So, this system isn't the first of its existence. If you actually go into Adventure, which is built by White Wolf, it's Adventure with an exclamation point at the end. They also have this thing called dramatic edits. You get a certain number of points. You're allowed to spend them to change something, to make a dramatic edit to the scene. This might include, there is a prerequisite to it. You actually have to make it dramatic. You actually have to narrate. You have to say, luckily or quickly, I suddenly draw my firearm, and with the accuracy of Calamity Jane, shoot the chandelier that's above the bad guys, and it falls upon them with a crashing sound. You have to, because it's pulp, so it's like 1920s. You actually have to dramatically edit. You have to add something to the game. You can't just be like, I pull out my gun and I shoot the chandelier above them and it falls on them. Can't do it. Can't do it that way. Now, is that a good mechanic? Kind of. But what about the people who aren't really good at narrating?
It is a thing that is very tough if you don't have people who are good at narrating. You sort of need to have a ringer at the table who knows what they're doing to show the other players how to do it.
You definitely do in the first session. It's got to be cool. So one of the things is I would first caution. First thing from the toolbox. If you are a brand new GM, do not try this at home.
Again, as I would say to anybody who's a brand new GM,
stick to the book.
Stick to the book, stick to the rules, stick to your module, whatever you're doing to learn the game. You can't like a good example would just be anything in real life that you do. Like you can't go to a gun range, and you can't fire a gun blindfolded. If you've never fired a gun before, you can't do. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that ever. Don't use that. That's
don't ever.
But you can't. A better example would be like golfing. Like you can't do. I wouldn't even suggest hitting off the ground a golf ball your first time until you kind of have an understanding of how the swing works. Okay, like. You can't do anything until you understand the basics of how it works.
Right. So, but one of the main reasons that I suggest this against, your more starting off storytellers is because your players will be able to take this into wildly dramatic situations. For example, I'm going to take Aaron's example into context or open it up a little bit more, right? We're running down the street. I look to the right. There's a helicopter. It's firing up, and this man yells, "Get on board, get on board." As a storyteller, I'm going, okay, hadn't planned this. Where did the helicopter come from? Where is it going? How? The adventure has now gone left. Okay.
Fancy dancing is happening.
Fancy dancing is about to ensue. Okay.
And you don't even know how to Roomba.
No. And that's why I advise this against your starting off storytellers. This is more for your intermediate seeking a challenge. Heck, even your people who have a lot of mastery of this skill, still seeking a challenge. Because for me, I would be excited to storytell a system like this because I think I could dance enough, mainly because, we had Nick at our table. So like dancing was all I knew. I didn't know how to write like a solid linear plan. Okay. I didn't know
all of your plot points were, these are some obstacles and I'm just going to react to what he does.
Exactly. I mean, that essentially he taught me how to dance and dance very quickly. So if you're not used to fancy dancing a lot, where it's player does this, you react, player does that, you react. And yeah, your NPCs won't be well built. You're gonna have to build them in your maintenance period. Your story might be gone to the wind. It's really made more for a sandbox environment. If you are planning a linear game, so this is toolbox tool number 2. If you were planning a linear game, I would not highly recommend this because again, it can go dramatically to the left, especially if you allow something like the hybrid system where they can say, there's a helicopter to the left and the guy yelling, get on board, get on board.
So you don't necessarily need to allow things of that.
I like
extreme.
that though. I think it's a cool aspect because for me as a storyteller, with some experience, just a little bit, I'd be like, "Fuck yes! Where is this helicopter taking us? You know, is it taking us somewhere cool? Is it taking us somewhere fun? Are my players smiling at the table, going, 'This is so cool! We're getting on a helicopter!' You know, like where are we going?" And that's why I welcome even that level of dramatic editing. I welcome the small level. The small level is easy to maintain. If you're just doing like small little, you know, like I can alter the path of a bullet and be a little, I can shoot down a chandelier, or I can ensure that I make the jump when I leap from the hood of our car onto the trunk of their car. I can ensure that those little dramatic edits can probably be put into a linear game if you're only allowing small ones. If you're allowing moderate or major, then I would not recommend a linear game because it can go dramatically left. It will be hard to pull the players back to the story because their dramatic edit might take them miles away, right? And it might be difficult getting back. So, but to welcome the players as storytellers is something fresh. I haven't seen a lot in the role-playing books that I read, right? Welcoming your actual players to be like, no, come up with a part of the story.
The only book that I sort of know it to be the case would be in like 7th Sea. And one of the things in 7th Sea is, I don't know if this is home ruled by Tom or not, but one of the things that you get is you get a free extra dice if you describe in what manner you are executing whatever you're doing.
See, that's a minor edit, not a major.
It is a minor edit, but like some of the stuff sort of becomes a little bit more major in how you do it. Like, because the wild action of like your swing and stuff like that seems more major, and it makes you, so like I would urge you to use that as maybe your bridge to get you to where you need to go for this to work, because it gets people more in the flow of describing exactly what they're doing, or in what sort of over the top extravagant way they're doing what they're doing. Right.
And honestly, I love the idea of the small time dramatic edits, because it is, especially if you're requiring a slight narrative to it instead of them just being like, I successfully hit the target between the eyes. That's not adding any flavor to the game. That's just letting the players do what they want. When there's prerequisites, like you have to describe what you're doing, it has to be something fantastic. It has to be narrated in some way, shape, or form. I think it's a very effective form of starting that foundation. Now, there are some rules that you need to do. All right. So tool number 3, ensure that your players understand that there are some limits to these rules. You cannot use it to affect another player, right? Because then you have players making decisions about other characters, which may very easily tick off other players.
So yeah, so the way it works in his system with the hybrid system is that you play off of somebody else's dramatic edit.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning a player initiates it, and there is a penalty if you try to use 2 points in a row, effectively. Trying to do 2 in a row is detrimental, because what it does is the game allows for it, but if you do it, then the GM also gets to make dramatic edits.
Oh, wonderful. I think that's cool.
Okay? So like you're giving the GM then free ammunition to use against you at some point. So that's why, so what it really encourages is it encourages a team play across the table to dramatic edit together. You can chain off of each other's dramatic edits.
And that's a great rule to put into effect. And when I say, affect other players, I mean like, suddenly this person's gun goes off, ricocheting off of blah, 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 and taking out the chandelier. Like, Charlie's character's the one that does that? Yeah, it's Charlie's gun. Whoa.
Yeah, you can't affect somebody else's gun. What you could say is, Charlie falls into the pit. Okay.
Poor Charlie. You're letting that happen to Charlie?
This is your narration. GM's like, okay, Charlie falls into the pit.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm the GM. I say that Charlie falls into the pit.
All right. And so you're right. I should not act a pawn for Charlie in my dramatic edit. I can say when I blow my dramatic edit, I slide down, grab the lip of the trap, and catch Charlie. Okay.
Perfect.
Or Charlie blows his dramatic edit right as the floor comes out. Charlie is light on his feet. When the floor drops, he backflips over the trap. Okay?
Perfect.
And then you might say, but, the backflip's not far enough. And then the other person has to come in and be like, but as Charlie's backflipping onto the trap, I throw out my sword as a base for him to land on.
Very cool.
So, it becomes like this very fantastical thing that ends up happening, but it's this kind of cool situation of different ways that you can then kind of play off of each other. So, that's Charlie can't escape the trap even though he got through there, but his was far enough where you could blow another dramatic edit to give him the platform to land on.
Very cool. In that the whole sword sticking into the side of the trap that gives him enough, he lands on the sword instead of whatever. That I think is cool. I think it's fantastic. I think it's over the top a little bit, but that's what I want. I want a little bit over the top.
Understand that when you invite this in here, you are sort of inviting in
goofiness,
a lot of goofiness, a lot of things that are not they might not thematically fit as well with your story,
right?
And so you do have to understand that the dramatic editing does involve a lot of the fantastical, like Jared said, you turn to the right, there's that helicopter waving you on, get on the helicopter, that's very fantastical. It wasn't there before, now it is. Okay,
it's definitely out of left field.
It's one of those things where it's also one of those things where if you're playing it, it was very fun in a one shot. It was much harder to see how you would do it in a longer game because in the one shot we were given these points like candy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we were able to throw them out left and right. I don't think I rolled a single thing that I did not boost up to a critical hit. Okay.
Okay.
But in a longer game, obviously you don't have that many points. You can't be that frivolous with it all.
Right.
So, you have to be a little bit more cautious about when you use it. So you probably wouldn't use it for that maneuver right there. But Charlie might get out of the trap altogether. That might be the thing that you're trying to just achieve and try to get past is just get Charlie out of the trap. And that might be worth blowing the point. Or if Charlie lands in the trap, then you can come up with some crazy way to get him out of the trap.
Right. And, so it's, and that kind of comes to another tool is make sure your genre reflects this kind of system. Okay. If you are trying to replicate a theme of Seven, right? The movie Seven. All right. Dramatic edits, not very good in that situation. Even minor ones, not great.
Or just you have to give them very few and far between because the problem is that you don't want people to so dramatically change your game that the theme of the game the theme of the game completely changes. This is the problem is if you allow for as many dramatic as we had there, we were playing 80s action heroes. So it was very thematically fitting to that.
You go. If you're doing a more action-oriented game, I would say dramatic edits are fantastic. If you were doing high action, high octane, lot of combat, lot of more light and fluffy, even though I know most people wouldn't associate combat with light and fluffy, but I
more beer and pretzels kind of
game. Then it's good to go for. Can you do it in darker ones? Yes. If I were doing an Aliens game, right? Because I still want to do that. If you do an Aliens game, I would probably give, and I think Aaron brought up a really good idea of limiting how much. I'm going to give one person every one thing. And yes, they still have to narrate, but the narration has to be dark.
The narration
part of the rule.
has to fit thematically. You're not, when the alien comes busting through the wall at you and, is going to potentially knock you off the edge of the space station, whatever you are. You're looking at me like,
I'm tracking.
So, I mean, like, your dramatic edit there could be like,
I tumble backwards.
As I come tumbling off, I grab a cable and I'm, I'm swinging below where that event happened, or like I'm able to swing onto a ledge. Like, it is fantastical in that situation, but thematically, I don't think I've broken your aura of suspense, because the danger is right there.
It's still there.
I didn't eliminate your danger. I just avoided dying.
And this brings me to my next one, which is the next tool is you are still the GM. Okay. These dramatic edits are fantastic, but you are still the GM. You're still one in the control. All right. If someone says, like, the alien lurks above me, it starts its hiss and I can see its second mouth, then a Bobo the Clown shows up and smacks it in its face. You have every right to say no.
Yes. Exactly. That is built into that system that he has, which is thematically it has to fit.
Exactly. You can say, and there's different ways of saying that. Try again. I'm sorry that doesn't work.
You could say the other mouth comes out and I reach for my boot knife and I stab it through with my boot knife and
then the second mouth.
And now I'm being flung about by it, and then
I wouldn't recommend that. It bleeds acid.
Listen, Jared,
you want to back away from that alien as soon as possible. That acid will burn right through you. God, it's like you've never even watched the movies. It's God. I can't do that voice as well as my wife. She does a hilarious voice. God. But yes, it's got to fit the theme. And ultimately, you are still the GM of the story. You can still say, nah, that one's not going to work.
Bobo the Clown is not coming out and slapping my alien.
Nope, not going to happen. And you can still take control of that dramatic edit. You might still put in place rules. Like, for example, if you do a dramatic edit that is out of theme, the rule is I can take your dramatic edit and change it however I want. So Bobo the Clown pops up, right? But as the alien is hissing and snarling and its second mouth starts to come out, you see a Bobo the Clown float past the window. It's a children's toy. One of the many that this creature has killed. Now go ahead and take your action, because that was your dramatic edit. Like, oh, shit. You can. I
probably would again.
I would. I would totally would. You pull that shit on me, I pull that shit on you.
Okay, you're probably not using the dramatic edit in your Aliens games the first time that you're using dramatic edits. When you do this, do a high octane game for your dramatic edits.
I still think it can be done. You just need to make sure you have the right players.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you first, baby steps. When you first try this out.
Oh God, yes.
Do it in a game where Bobo the Clown could show up, okay? It might be stupid.
I will never encourage Bobo the Clown. Ever.
Okay. Maybe not. But again, do it in a place where, the dramatic edits are really pretty simple to understand. I grab a rope and I swing about and I slash the guy
Seven
in the face.
Seas would be fantastic. It's piratey, it's swashbuckling, which, I don't know, you ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean? It's a little goofy.
Go let it be in a place that's over the top, and then that way when you get to the alien game and you're doing that situation there and you're like, oh my God, I need to use my dramatic edit, you're not going to get Bobo the Clown. You're not
going to get Bobo the Clown. You're not. Because your players are experienced and they understand that if I fuck this up, he's just going to take my point. It's just like a roll. Anytime that I make a roll, there's the possibility of failure. If I make a narrative that is not up to par with the storyteller, he's just going to take my point and say, thank you and have a good day.
Now, Jared did bring up a point earlier, which is maybe not all your players are experienced in narrating the drama. So there is a way that you can address this, it can be done in 2 ways. Okay?
2 ways.
The first way is if I don't know a good way to narrate what I want to do, I can explain what I want to do, and then I can have somebody else defer to handle the narration.
Pitch hitter.
A pitch hitter. Okay? Somebody else then understands what I want to do. They narrate it for me.
That's a great idea.
Voila. Okay? Or even one step further, I don't have anybody at the table who's good at narration or whatever. Okay? Explain what I want to do. Give it to the GM. The GM will narrate it. Okay, I understand that that's more of a cop out to it, but you are playing with the dramatic.
I don't see it as a cop out.
You're playing more with the dramatic edit piece here, and as you learn and you see how other people narrate things, then you become more confident to do it yourself.
Very true, and I like I said, I like the idea of the dramatic edit. I like welcoming my players to help craft this story. You know what I mean? And it can go beyond the fantastical. So we're almost at the halfway point of our typical podcast, and I kind of want to change directions from dramatic edits. I think we've covered that very, very well. Now I would like to bounce with you. We're just going to rap a little bit. So listeners, buckle into your seats because we're going to rap a little bit.
Boom.
How do you let your players, in your experience and my experience, how do you let them change the story?
How do I let them change the story?
How would you, if you wanted to let them start creating a story in your story, how would you do it?
So typically that's done through player motivation described within the game itself. So there's 2 ways that you could do it. Okay. Whether it be that you're going to allow the player to actually narrate and change the story like we just talked about, or I want to change the story. So again, this is where you kind of have a little bit more of, if you're telling a linear story, you get a little bit more of the hybrid aspect to it, where now you're getting a little sandboxy. And so a player is now interjecting what they want to do within the story. And so now the player is seeking out information. And this is where you have to go super fancy dancy, because you probably never planned for this shit.
Right.
Is that now you are now giving the players, you're feeding into what the players have, and then you're planning with your maintenance period to how to execute the end of what this player is trying to achieve. So in the moment, you're trying to just breathe, and as you take on water, okay?
As you take on water. Yes.
And then after you're done, you go, okay, this is what's going on. Maybe you have a quick informal discussion afterwards about like the game and blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, your character's doing this. Like, blah, you don't need to expressly say that you're going to plan this stuff out here, but you can then sort of see, okay, this is the way the player wants to go. He is going to pursue this further.
So I'm going to propose something weird. I call it passive player input. Okay? I look for the light in my player's eyes, and you've actually done it before in the past. So, in our detective game, our characters are in a magical lighthouse that operates much like a TARDIS, except it doesn't take on the form of a police box. It's a lighthouse, which does make it a little odd when we play games in landlocked areas. However, on my trips to Springfield and many drives that I have, there is a motherfucker out there with a lighthouse in the middle of Illinois.
I did make it where whenever you took it someplace, you had to land it in a place where it was out of the way.
Right. Typically, that's the rule. You got to land it someplace out of the way. Except in one game, you did postulate that we could put it in a building, but you were like, "You will kill many other civilians," and we're like, "Okay, can't do that. We're heroes." So one of the things that I remember Aaron doing, right? We were playing a game where we had to explore these caves, and there were these mutant bears in these caves. Now, our lighthouse has an armory, right, that has literally been collecting arms from the lighthouse keepers, who may or may not be immortal. We're not quite sure. We're still figuring out that detail, or have extended lives. But there are numerous weapons in there. We have never described the weapons. We did do an off-kilter scene where we assumed that there are harpoons that like go the speed of light and water. And
you described that the current owner of the lighthouse killed a couple of mermen and stole their harpoons, and he said these, if you throw them in water, they'll travel
very fast.
Very fast. He's like, but good luck retrieving them.
Yeah, and we've thrown both of them in the water as an experiment and gone.
I thought we tied them to ropes.
We did, and it took down the dock, remember? It took the pillar with it. Goodbye. So we tied one to the dock. The other one we just threw. Goodbye. Don't know why we threw the second. I mean, that was just stupid of us. But we've always made a joke that there's a lot of antique weapons in there, including grenades, which is something not many people have access to. Actually, very few people have access to high explosives. But we always made a joke that there was an old Lewis gun, right? So a Lewis gun is a light machine gun that was, I believe, developed actually in World War I, saw action in World War I and World War II. Now, please, you welcome to correct me on my history of World War I weapons. You win. I'll just give you the W. Okay. But the Lewis gun essentially is it's a very old light machine gun. Okay. And we'd always made the joke that it was down there. And finally during this one scene, I'm like, I'm going for the Lewis gun. Right. Aaron at that point had a choice as a storyteller. Do I say it's just fragged because I don't want them to have it? And weapons that old can just, that gun is junk. Unless you do a full restore on it, it's that way forever. But Aaron actually was like, take the Lewis gun. You got one, a plate, because it has like a plate of ammo. You get one, and it might work, it might not.
You didn't know.
We didn't know.
You wanted to take it with you? Sure, go ahead and take it with you.
And we couldn't test fire because we got one fucking plate. That's it.
Is a full plate of ammunition. Okay. I believe they carry 88 rounds.
Don't remember.
I think they carry 88 rounds. I looked up the rate of fire on it, all this stuff. So I determined, like, if you fired it and just went hog on it, you can get four sustained rounds of fire. Okay.
So Aaron does this fancy dancing, and he lets us take this Lewis gun into the cave system, right? There is no expenditure of points. There is no major discussion. Aaron saw the look in my eyes like a child going, oh my God, I'm bringing this. He knows he's got like 17 fucking bears in there. We had the Lewis gun and barely got out with our lives. Okay.
I had to tell you were going the wrong way at one point because I'm like, they're going to just die.
Who'd ever thought that caves were difficult to navigate?
Dynamic lighting in caves. Great fun.
Fantastic fun. So Aaron made that choice on the fly. He allowed the players to enter the story and dictate some of the things that were there and take some things that might be not usual. And I had a blast. That scene where I actually got to use it, I didn't even get to use it very effectively because my character Rachel is, as discussed in many episodes, does not know the meaning of moderating your rate of fire, firing short controlled bursts. She doesn't know that. It's hog wild with her.
I think I took you behind the curtain on that. At the beginning of the game, so usually what I would do is I would ask you if you want a high-low on it or something like that, or I would have asked you to pick a number or something like that. And I determined that it's just stupid to ask players high-low. If I want a high-low, I just roll it. And you always take high. And, if I roll high, then it goes. If I want to add some, like, randomness where I didn't think about something, like, I stopped asking you guys a long time ago. I just started rolling it now. So,
and the other thing that I welcome storytellers to start doing is start looking at their players' interests when they're in the game. It's, for example, I know if I put the red colored door in Aaron and Brian's game, they're going to be on that thing like, pig in shit. They love the off-colored door because they need to know what's behind it. They love mystery, and they love getting involved in the mystery. When I see that light in my player's eyes, what I'm saying is this is a passive form of them entering the story. And it is up to you, it's up to us as storytellers to at least respond or decide if we can respond to that want, that desire, right? So when you see that light, look at yourself during your maintenance period. Can I create something into this? Should I? Will it affect my overall story? If it doesn't hurt, but it only helps, welcome that player into that story. And I'm not talking about sitting them next to you and writing a story. I'm talking about writing a story that you know.
Be very perceptive to that player's wants, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying. And yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that you do very well, okay, as a GM, and one of the things that you've, I would say, have sort of perfected or have become very skilled in, is making sure that every player, major player skill has some sort of highlighted moment within the game.
Yes.
Okay. And
spotlight moments.
It's very, very astute of you to have become very skilled at that, because even in places where I wouldn't have thought to use my skill, it's available now to me. In this last game that you did, there was a chance for me to use one of my powers, a power that isn't very, I mean, it's sort of useful, but it's not like amazingly useful in terms of like where it is at right now, which is, you know, I'm able to like relive like the last seconds of someone's life. And so Jared built, you know,
narratives
whole
for every dead body,
whole scenes and narratives around every dead body, because he knew that I might use that skill. Very cool.
The card, knowing that it was one of the central things, had you used your dead zone power, you know, you would have seen it's the black spider webs and stuff like that. I tend to, Brian's I have a little bit more trouble with because of the pocket itself, you know.
Well, his power you do, but he also has skills that are useful that he has. That
I love using that. His character is a former cop. I use it all the time.
He possesses a set of skills that my character does not have.
Right.
So like that makes it possible for you to give him spotlights. You don't have to give him a spotlight because of his power. You have to give him spotlights because of his skills.
His character.
Like, again, Jared's character is, you know, a very muscle-bound, you know, very fit woman. Your character is also adept at tracking. Your character is, you know, you have other skills too that make things, you know, very.
She's a very adept tracker.
Yeah.
Wilderness survival. So what I guess I wanted to encourage with the last moments of this podcast is to see your players as part story owners in everything you do. And this is a call or a recommendation to all storytellers, that when they start seeing their players as this and not just they're the, because I love using this example. First time I've ever done it, but you know, I'm going to say I love it. We storytellers see ourselves as the players are the antagonists. We're the protagonists, and we just got to stop them. Okay. It's something that we can sometimes fall into as a trap, and we don't see them as part of this collaborative narration. We keep saying no to the players, you know, no, that's not in the rule book. No, that's not in my plan. But when I can guarantee you, when you start seeing your players as not just an audience, not just a player, but as a co-writer in this narrative, right? Even in the moment where you see that eye flash and you go, my God, I got to make something. I saw a flash. Let's do this. And start dancing a little bit, breaking away from the full plot of the story to make something interesting for a single player or for a small group of your players within your larger group or the entire group as a whole. But when you start welcoming them as a contributor to the narrative, I'm going to tell you, you're going to see an environment change in your table. And they're going to notice. You might think they're not going to notice, but they will notice. It's going to be very faint at first, because start off small. Always start off small. It's just like salt, throw in a pinch. taste. Throw in another pinch, taste. Not a pinch, because Jesus Christ, you'll be doing that forever with some things. But
start with a teaspoon, work your way from there.
There you go. You know, it's and that's what you should. I think we should all do and start doing a little bit more, is welcoming our players as part of this collaborative narrative. And if we do it, I guarantee you're going to see a change in your table. You're going to see more investment in your table. You see more joy in your players. And isn't that what it's all about? Is friends getting together, telling a wonderful freaking story, and having a great time and making some memories.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jared.
Jared out.
Boom. So anyways, if you what are your thoughts on, dynamic edits, or, how to bring in and incorporate player stories? Tell us your thoughts. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast.
How do you do it?
Yeah, how do you do it? Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Share your secrets with us.
And then smash that like button. Oh, I said it early.
On YouTube. And also, review the podcast, subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. Go listen to the other episodes if you haven't listened to them already, and share with a friend. But that's going to wrap us up for this week. So for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.